You owe your parents for bringing you into this world and keeping you alive.
Have you ever noticed that you only hear bad parents say these kinds of things? You never hear good parents say this stuff because good parents don't go through life wondering what their children can do for them. And if you're talking about what your children owe you, then you're pretty much admitting to being a bad parent, because if you have to guilt your children into feeling obligated to have a relationship with you, then that most likely means they don't want one. You can't say that your children owe you for bringing them into this world when they didn't ask to be here. And you don't get to tell someone to be grateful for the clothes you put on their back, the food you put in their stomachs, and the roof you put over their head when that is the bare minimum of being a parent. And those were the things you had to do in order to keep your children alive. But what about all the things you should have been doing to make them feel seen? Because it's really hard to be grateful for the clothes your parents bought you as a kid when you're now an adult who's trying to deal with the lack of love you got as a child. So it's bad enough to say that your children owe you for bringing them into this world, but it's even worse to say it if you put them through hell. Someone doesn't owe you a place in their life just because you're their parent if you are also their monster. Sure, your child depended on you for survival, but you may have also been something that they felt they were constantly trying to survive. And you may think those days are over, but just because your child healed from that moment in time doesn't mean that it didn't still shape them in that moment. And that trauma can't just be undone. Here's the truth. Good parents worry about being bad parents, but bad parents tell you to just be grateful for what you have because it could have always been worse. It seems like bad parents are always talking about how badly they were parented, but it only makes it worse to know that they understood the pain that could come from being parented badly, and yet they still chose to inflict it on you anyways. Your own bad childhood should be the reason why you want to be better, not the excuse for why you're even worse. At least bad parents who want to be better parents will acknowledge what they did to you so you can start to heal. But bad parents will tell you that you have to just get over what happened to you so that they don't have to acknowledge what they did to you. They'll tell you that didn't really happen, or stop being dramatic, or you're exaggerating, or they don't remember, because they have the luxury of not remembering all the things that you'll never be able to forget. You'll hear them act like martyrs and say, sorry I wasn't perfect, but children don't expect perfection. They don't have anything to compare you to. They just know that they feel a hole when their needs aren't met. And they always say that you don't know what they went through, but you don't know what you put your children through either if you don't care enough to understand. And your child doesn't need to know what you went through. It was never your child's job to make your life easier. It was your job to make sure that your child had a childhood worth remembering. We hear people value the physical needs of a child over the emotional ones, and it makes no sense. Not feeding a child can leave them temporarily hungry, and that can have dire consequences. But not protecting a child emotionally can leave them with a permanent sense of longing that they can end up struggling with for the rest of their lives. So if you're frustrated by your child's indifference towards you, just remember that you're the one who taught them how to treat the people they love. There are exceptions to every rule, and I'm not saying that there aren't some great people with mean kids or some mean people with great kids. No one's a perfect parent, but a parent who's doing their best is usually considered a pretty great one.